6 hospital trusts.
That's our tumour.
Ready, roll.
Filmed this winter.
We're on the operation today.
There's not a bed available.
Across one city. Liverpool.
Operation has got risks, but we have to compare it to not doing the operation.
From life-saving emergency care
We can't mess around, we're doing it whatever happens tomorrow.
to groundbreaking surgery.
If I wake up, I wake up. If I don't, I don't.
But in the heart of the city, staff struggle in a building overdue for demolition.
We are concerned about patient care, with so many systems in the hospital failing.
While next door, a brand new hospital stands empty since construction giant Carillion went bust.
We were coming round, looking at a nearly complete building, then all of a sudden everything came to a halt.
As the NHS faces new, ever-increasing pressures,
If we can't recruit consultants, there is no service at Liverpool Women's.
There you go.
I need to get out.
What for?
I need to get out.
lives are transformed.
She moves then, did you see that?
Your vocal cords are moving.
I can hear everything you're saying.
4 weeks ago, I thought about having to carry him down to church in a coffin.
They saved my daughter's life. I'm very thankful to them.
We can limp along, but if any one of my colleagues went off, we crash and burn. We've got no give in the system.
In the heart of Liverpool sits one of the city's oldest hospitals, the Royal.
Okay, and so what's your longest wait out in ET? That A&E requesting a formal divert, saying it's unsafe in their A&E department. 6 crews, 6 ambulances, and the longest wait for the ambulance is 2 hours.
Incoming patients are being held in ambulances due to a flood on the ground floor.
They requested a divert off Aintree, and Aintree have declined, saying that they're holding 3 ambulances and they're trapping 50.
The hospital is flooded for the 10th time this year.
Just go into A&E there and just try and extend it, a little bit further. If you would. There was a fractured pipe. It was flooding down the lift shafts, and the engineer came but had to isolate where to switch the water off, and with the result it was pouring at a great rate. It's old pipe work.
Where's the water gone tonight?
Down from here, all the ground floor where all the clinics, A&E is. It's quite a busy area, A&E, as you can imagine.
The problem we've got is that the water was going in the lift shafts from the ground floor to the lower ground, so that's a safety risk. So what we've done is let intensive care know, and we're just going to get the lift engineers in now.
On the 5th floor, a patient with suspected septicemia needs to be moved to intensive care. But with half of the hospital's lifts out of action, staff are struggling to transfer her.
Luckily, we have interconnections through the hospital, so they're just going to have to cut through that. I mean, obviously that may add on some time.
The knock-on effect of having the flood is that the wards upstairs that needed cleaning have not been cleaned because we had to pull everyone down here for the flood. So now we've got patients who are waiting to go into those beds.
Obviously, with the flood happening about 7:30, it's probably one of our peak times.
To try and clear the backlog, night duty manager Charlotte searches for cleaned beds.
What beds have you got?
None.
None.
No.
Full.
Yeah.
What beds have you got? We have got none. We're full. Full. Are you full?
We're just waiting on the patient, but we're just waiting for the bed to be clean still.
And what sort of clean is it?
Terminal.
Okay. And there's a delay on the cleaning because of what's happened
Yeah.
downstairs. Is that your only empty bed?
That's our only empty bed.
I don't know if it's true, but someone said that did they use sand from the Mersey when they were making this building, and that's why it's not as sustainable as what it should be. It's really frustrating when you look out the window and there's this fabulous new hospital. The cost of what it is repairing this build every year must be astronomical, to be honest.
The new Royal is a £335 million state-of-the-art hospital. After the construction company Carillion went bust, it has sat empty and unfinished for the last 10 months. Incomplete electrical fittings mean the trust can't even turn off the lights.
At the end of the day, we're all here for the patients. We just try to make it as positive experience as it can be for them.
I'm sure she's going to come and see you.
The amount of problems that we have. Didn't used to have this like 10 years ago, even 5 years ago. I mean, unfortunately, there's a lot of unhappy patients here tonight.
On the other side of Liverpool, Alderhay, one of the newest and most advanced children's hospitals in the UK.
You'll not eat your dinner if you drink all that. It's not even cast an eye away from the telly.
3-year-old Charlie has come to Alderhay for surgery on a rare type of brain tumour called an ependymoma.
Charlie is our middle child. He started having headaches and sickness, and we just kept saying, this just isn't the Charlie that we know.
Try again. Listen it. Look how long your hair is.
And then he was becoming more and more lethargic, and eventually he had a scan, and that's where we got the diagnosis.
Charlie had emergency surgery in Manchester, but they were unable to remove all of the tumour.
He then went for chemo with a view to shrinking it, with a view to then having a second look to operate again. But that's when, after 9 weeks of chemotherapy, we got a devastating blow that the tumour had grown. And that's when a panel in Manchester told us that it was unlikely that they were going to be able to remove it. So then we were on to what was called palliative care, and we asked the question, how long, you know, and they said a few months, maybe 6 months. 4 weeks ago, I thought about, you know, having to carry him down a church in a coffin. That's the reality. And that's something that no parent should ever have to do.
Conor Malucci was the only neurosurgeon in the country prepared to attempt further surgery.
This particular tumour is probably where the best evidence lies that you have to try and remove every last piece. And
If you don't?
if you don't, more likely than not, you're not going to survive.
Oh, where's your arm gone?
Milk everywhere.
Conor is operating on Charlie tomorrow.
There we go.
It's his second try at removing all of the tumour.
They've always been difficult tumours to remove completely. Children with ependymoma have tumours that are like crabs digging into this structure called the brainstem, which is the most important part of the brain. That's what Charlie has. Hello, Charlie. How is he today? How are you, Charlie? You good? He's a bit tired,
yeah. He's been busy this morning, so he's having a bit of a sleep.
There's the smile. Yeah, I was wondering where that smile had gone. So what we're going to do is get his scans out, because we haven't had a good look at the scans together, and talk about tomorrow. Right. The area in question that the radiologist picked up on was that little bit there. So we're looking at this bit. So that's already over just 2 weeks growing, and it's just digging into the brainstem again. So that makes it slightly more difficult, but it also emphasised that we can't mess around, you know, we just can't, we're doing it whatever happens tomorrow. So that's definitely grown, even in 2 weeks. His right arm and leg are just in the cable,
so
just there.
To be honest, in the last 2-3 days, his right arm has been less mobile.
Has it?
Yeah. And that wasn't...
No, it wasn't like that.
So it might be that it started to favour his left side, which was his weakest side.
Last time, Conor called a halt to the operation when the risk of brain damage became too great.
If we'd have kept going last time, he could have had a catastrophic problem. And he did take a hit last time, and I was already worried about it. So to keep pushing when you're not sure was the wrong thing to do.
We have been at the lowest we can be, and now we have hope. And so we know what it's like to be at the bottom, and now we do believe that Dr. Bellucci can do anything.
Yeah.
If Connor can remove the entire tumour, Charlie will qualify for state-of-the-art proton beam radiotherapy not available in the UK. So the NHS will pay for him to be treated in Germany.
At the end of day tomorrow, we will know where Charlie is in his treatment path. If he's fully removed the tumour, then we're looking for cure. If there's something in there that Connor can't remove, then odds swing against us again.
At the Royal, staff face a new problem.
My greatest concern of today is ITU because they've got no suction whatsoever and only a limited number of electrical pumps.
The morning after the flood, an electrical fault has caused vital equipment to fail.
I know there is a problem in a plant room. There is no vacuum system available, which is quite a risk. Right now, my priority is to keep patients on ITU safe and to make sure that we keep patients in the main theatre safe as well.
The vacuum system provides suction, which is critical both during and after surgery to clear patients' airways.
We've got a couple of cases that are up and running already, but I have decided until there's more clarity not to start any new cases.
That's the decision I was after. That's great. That's what I think we should do. So we're pausing at the moment to see where we're up to, see where we are in half an hour, and then we can decide what's on the table. We're obviously carrying on with.
Thanks. Bye.
One of the theatre lists affected by today's problem is vascular. Led by Professor John Brennan, vascular surgeons treat patients whose arteries and veins have been damaged by age or ill health.
Today, to add a different flavour to the delay, it was the fact that we didn't need a critical care bed, but actually but the suction's not working. You couldn't make it up really, could you?
One of John's patients waiting for surgery is 85-year-old Raymond. He has an abdominal aortic aneurysm, a life-threatening condition where part of the largest artery in the body has ballooned and is in danger of bursting.
I went to the anteroom of the operating theatre. I've been fixed up for the anaesthetic. And then next thing they said there was a delay, and then apparently it's something to do with the suction. The scientists solved the problem. Apparently it's right across the hospital.
We're going to have to cancel one or both cases on the list, due to an estates issue, which is, amidst all the other problems that we're facing, this place is crumbling and we're supposed to be the new hospital.
Hi, Jackie. Oh, that sounds good. Okay, so shall you and I make a decision to resume activity in theatres? Agreed.
Oh, okay, great.
I've just spoken to Jackie, so we're good to go. Yeah.
With the fault fixed, surgeons must now try and make up for lost time.
We've got 2 patients on the list. I'm still hoping to be able to do 2 by running into the extended list in the evening. We'll have to see how that pans out.
Having floods regularly is an impossible way to run things. We've had floods in theatres, you have to move patients, at a time when you're struggling for beds. That can't be a regular occurrence, that's crazy.
I mean, generally what I say anyway in these things is like, look, I hear what you say and I'll make sure we're doing everything. Yeah, this one's probably got more space. Let's go on this one.
The Trust's chief executive, Aidan Kehoe, is meeting with staff throughout the hospital. Today, it's the theatre teams. With no firm date for the move to the new building, they have concerns about the ageing facilities.
The delay on the build, I think the biggest problem that creates for us really is the maintenance of this existing building and how much do we spend on it. So we're constantly trying to balance. We don't want to plough lots of money into here if we're going to be in a new hospital. But by the same token, we need to make sure it's safe.
Essential maintenance work on the Old Royal will cost the Trust over £1 million this year.
The new hospital, you know better than perhaps most departments what a frustration that has been. And clearly that was predicated on the fact that the existing hospital was starting to deteriorate. We couldn't see a long-term future for this building. We were getting more and more problems affecting us operationally, but also costing a lot of money to fix. I don't want to talk too much because I think it is an opportunity also for you to ask me any questions.
We are concerned about patient care with so many systems in the hospital failing on a regular basis.
The primary thing has got to be to keep patients safe, and we're very clear we will spend what we need to do that. I appreciate all of the efforts of all of you and other staff throughout the hospital in terms of trying to keep things going in very difficult circumstances. But of course it is an old hospital, and some of the things we've had with electrical failure, burst pipes, that kind of thing, we just couldn't have predicted. But we'll try and respond very quickly, because you're right, that's a big issue.
Staff facilities, and it's very poor. If we go in somewhere and we're sitting in a slum having your break, you're just going to be on. It reduces your mood massively. The ceilings are leaking. There's buckets on the floor catching the water. The lights don't work. Yeah. There's loads of stuff like that. I feel like the staff are massively missed out in terms of the care.
If there are things we can do in the short term, we'll absolutely pick that up and we'll have a look at it. Yeah.
This may sound trivial, but we're here for 12-hour shifts. You're spending a portion of your life here.
You're right, we need to try and make it the best it can be over the next 2 years. So we'll spend the money we need to try and make sure things are kept safe.
In January 2018, the construction company building the new Royal, Carillion, went bust. Since then, Aidan has been fighting to finish and open the hospital.
I am very angry at the way Carillion have behaved. To leave us in this position, I think, is just unacceptable. And I do look at it and think, you know, these people were taking huge bonuses that they're not paying back, and leave the people of Liverpool waiting years more for a hospital. So serious questions need to be asked about the way Carillion have behaved.
Three miles across Liverpool at Alderhay Children's Hospital, it's the day of Charlie's surgery.
Which theatre are we on?
Right. Yeah. Whee! Oh, we're going in the secret lift.
Charlie, press the button.
Oh, it's closed
That's
and
it.
already.
Should we go and find your milkshake? Hello. Hiya. Hiya. We want the best for him. To give him the best quality of life. I love you. Keep breathing. I love you.
You're going to get some chocolate milkshake, aren't you?
Can I smell the milkshake? Keep lifting. Keep smelling. Can you smell?
What is it? Can you smell vanilla?
We love you, mate.
Love you, Charlie.
All the way through this, you have to live day by day. Because if you deal with what's going in your head, you wouldn't get through it. Because you'd be forever in that dark place. You know, we're both hurting, but we can't show that here for Charlie, because he just needs to see Mummy and Daddy.
OK, let's go. Yeah, go on, just have a look where the scar is. I can't quite see it. Every tumour's different. I'm coming probably close to having operated on about 1,000 brain tumours. It is one of the much more difficult ones, the top 1%. There's a lot of scar tissue here from his previous operations. Let's get our microscope.
The tumour has grown deep into Charlie's brainstem. Any injury to this area during surgery could have devastating consequences.
OK, there's the vena Galen, probably see that. The reality is the brainstem is where life is sustained. Deep to this scar tissue is the tumour, so let's get this off here. Your brainstem makes you breathe, it manages your heart rate, it channels all the nerves that work your face, that make you swallow, and all of these things are at risk when you're operating on the brain. That's our tumour. And it's just embedded in the brainstem there. So number 6, please. That's all tumour with a vessel going through. See the artery? We're just trying to move it out of the way because it's feeding his brainstem, so we have to preserve it. There's a nice bit of tumour there for you. This is just a horrible little thing. It's really stuck in that little corner of the posterior cerebral artery. This tumour's definitely grown since we were last here. There we are, that's what we want. As far as I can see, we've taken all the tumour out, but I've been wrong before. That's why we've got a scanner.
Charlie is scanned mid-operation in the intraoperative MRI scanner next door to the theatre.
When you look at the post-op scan, you've always got butterflies. And generally speaking, that used to be the day after. So now those butterflies have moved to intra-op. But this is the big moment when you're always hoping that you don't have to do any more and you've done what you want to do.
If any tumour is detected, they can go straight back in and remove it.
How's it looking?
It's looking good. Problem is that we have to be doubly sure.
There's something quite suspicious.
The radiologist isn't convinced all the brain tumour has been removed.
In there.
That's 4 millimetres. 5 millimetres. 5 by 4 millimetres. It's just not worth not looking at it. Let's have a look. There's no point in doing all of this and then ending up with 4 millimetres of tumour, which we could avoid leaving and give him that extra bit of hope. Let's keep digging around there. That's the right place. That's in the cavity, so it's just there. You can just see it appearing there. There it is. Motherfucker. Excuse me.
Connor removes the final 4 millimetres of tumour.
That's done. OK. Let's put some sort of a stitch in. There's no doubt that second look was the difference between a clean scan and a disappointing small residual. And that makes all the difference in the world of ependymoma.
Does he think then he's got everything?
With that nodule out, that's it.
That's everything?
Yeah, that looks like it for now. But he'll come and speak to you. Okay?
Yeah. Cheers, mate. He's done it. He's good.
Hi, how are you? You all right?
How are you?
Good, Good, brilliant. Really went well. I'll show you the scans. Yeah? It was fantastic, yeah? If you look carefully, there's this little thing much further down.
Right.
That's below the tent, but it was difficult to see. It was hidden. I can see why we missed it. It was under a load of scar tissue and a big blood vessel. So I managed to just sneak around that corner, and there it was, and it came out. I think he's got a complete resection, and I've seen nothing either intra-op or on the scans that would make me think he won't get back quickly to where he wants.
Don't know what to say, mate.
Not at all. My pleasure.
Miracle.
He looks like he's got it all though. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, he's awake. Charlie!
Oh, we've got Pippin!
He wants his money.
Hello!
Hello.
Are you okay? Look at you!
Oh, look at you, your eyes
You want your
are
milk?
open.
You want to... Oh, careful. Careful, mate.
He said very clearly twice, I want my mummy and my daddy.
Oh, well done, Charlie.
You just have to leave these wires, mate. We'll get them sorted tomorrow. They're just to...
Keep them in tonight.
All right.
Sweetheart, you're okay.
It's a miracle, guys.
Yeah.
How do you thank someone for saving your son's life?
When I first came to Liverpool in the early 90s, I immediately was struck by the fact that the people and the place had a very vivid personality, and I loved it.
At the Royal, Professor John Brennan oversees one of the country's biggest vascular centres.
Can you check that lady just to make sure that she's good to go like now-ish.
Over the next few years, John hopes to step back from leading the department, but there is more demand on his services than ever before.
Francesco, do you know what's happening with the order of the list then, in terms of critical care bed for this lady and doing the carotid? Okay. All right. A lot of the trust's time, both, my time as a clinician and lots of levels of management is taken up for this endless debate first thing in the morning about beds, how many people need to come in. It's an impossible juggle.
So it's 10 minutes away from the hospital and he's still alive, so we need, so 10 minutes away, that's the ambulance crew.
John has a surgical list full of urgent cases today. But an emergency patient is being flown in by air ambulance.
So you've got an aneurysmal left, a big right.
71, previous MI and stroke, fully recovered. That's the morning sorted.
There's a ruptured aneurysms coming from the Isle of Man that was, they were called about overnight, but we hadn't heard anything else, so actually, to be honest, we assumed that the patient had died as part of his getting ready to get over here, but it doesn't sound like that's the case.
A ruptured abdominal aneurysm occurs in the aorta, the major vessel supplying blood to the body. It causes life-threatening internal bleeding.
There's an aneurysm kind of being sorted out. Make sure you've got discharge summary sorted, please.
John needs to find a critical care bed before he can operate.
I'll just go to H2 and see if we can move some people out of there. Okay, cheers. You can't start the case without knowing that there is a bed. But then we have this other problem that because the hospital's full, with lots of people in A&E needing beds, inevitably something has to give. Either people end up staying for longer than is desirable downstairs in A&E, or we cancel cases. This young lady can go home.
She's had a dreadful night. She's not slept in pain, sickly.
I'll have a look at her. But, she might still be better off home. Just discharged 4 patients, one from the high dependency unit. She's a lady who was delayed on Friday. Either way, she should be on someone's list because she came in on Friday. She's sitting in a bed. She should just be done. They will create beds on here, which will allow people to move from HDU to here, which will free up beds elsewhere in the system to allow us to do the aneurysm. What are you doing? A neckline now and then we're done?
John's emergency patient is 71-year-old Bruce.
This is the list that's been booked, the emergency list that's been booked. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cases were on it, and then our aneurysm case came in at the end. But clearly, because of the clinical urgency, he's jumped straight to the top, but there's a big emergency list that we've bumped because of the urgency of the case. It's unlikely that all of those cases will get done today. That's the reality of it. His blood pressure is 170 over 100.
Repairing a ruptured aneurysm carries one of the highest mortality rates in surgery.
Occasionally, the patient, usually as a result of a big heart attack, will die on the table. You can get a situation where a patient survives the operation but actually succumbs days or weeks later due to just not being able to get over the complications of the procedure. She's just coming over the top, guys. Just steer clear of that horrible umbone. We're doing absolutely the best we can within the resources that we've got available to us to try and handle both the planned and the heavy demand of unplanned cases. But it's an impossible balance. There are too many patients trying to get into too small a resort. So I'm stepping back now because the main bit's done. A bit of tidying up required now, close his abdomen, and then he'll go to intensive care ventilated. So hopefully, he'll do well. And presumably he'll be a relieved man.
It's 5 days since Charlie's brain surgery. Consultant oncologist Nikki Thorpe will assess Charlie's brain function. She must decide if he is well enough for the next stage of treatment, cutting-edge proton beam radiotherapy in Germany.
After Charlie's initial surgery, he was quite poorly and he needed a period of rehabilitation. But if Charlie is well enough to travel, proton beam therapy is the best treatment because it reduces the risk of long-term side effects compared with X-rays. Be much easier for all of us as clinicians just to send everybody for protons, but the NHS can't afford to, and as a society we can't afford to, because essentially we're spending taxpayers' money. So we look at cost effectiveness.
Hi, I'm Dr. Nikki Thorpe.
Yeah, hi Nikki.
I'm here with Sarah,
Hi,
who
Sarah.
is my
Nice to meet you.
right-hand woman. Everybody's saying how well he's doing.
It's hard to believe where he's at now, because he was literally just squeezing fingers and barely moving when you
Sure,
were here. Now
yeah.
it's basically tying him to the bed, because
Oh,
he
fantastic.
hasn't got his coordination yet, but his strength's there. He's sitting up on his own.
I might have to wake him up just to
Yeah,
prove that,
no,
if that's
well.
all right.
Hi, Charlie. You alright? Do you want to come and sit on my knee?
Hi, Charlie. You won't remember me from
No.
last time, no. Yeah, it's much better. That's great. It's lovely to see Charlie looking so well.
Yeah, he's got the spark.
Yeah, no, he's absolutely different boy.
Yeah.
So we discussed radiotherapy,
Yeah.
the whys and the wherefores,
Yeah.
had a discussion about protons.
Yeah.
I submitted your application.
Yeah.
Have you had... Yeah, oh, right, OK, so that's been approved.
Right, all right, that's brilliant.
That's great.
Yeah.
It was pending the results of the second
Yeah.
surgery here. We've reviewed his scans in
Yeah.
the MDT today, and we're happy that the scans are clear.
Yeah, oh, that's brilliant.
And it's been approved, and he has a slot at Essen in
Right,
Germany.
yeah.
Oh, but it's actually finally at this point, and we're actually finally going to be going for the treatment.
So really, it's about the logistics of getting him on a plane, getting him to Germany for his protons.
What do we actually get as part of the NHS?
Anything treatment related he will get. You're funded for your travel for the two of you, there and back. We fund 2 flights, don't we, there and back for planning as well. And the accommodation and transport between the accommodation and the hospital. So, we're in a good place.
I feel like I want to give you a big hug, but it's probably not. Probably not. Oh, come on. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Well, it's a pleasure. It's been a pleasure. Get that German phrase for out. It's lovely to see you today, making lots of noise. Right, so hope everything goes well.
Thank you so much, honestly. I really can't believe it. I can't believe it.
There's an eligibility list devised by clinicians. Charlie qualifies because of his age and diagnosis, and the fact that we've achieved a clear scan.
The cost to the NHS of sending Charlie and his family to Germany for proton beam treatment is £130,000.
It's the news we've been waiting for and we've all wanted, but we're so used to getting hammer blows. It's like you daren't get excited, you daren't believe it, but like Nikki said, believe it. You know, the tumour's gone, they hopefully now can cure him.
So Charlie, look at Mummy. Where are we going today?
Oh.
Yay! Say it loud.
Oh.
Right, we got everything?
The family will have just 3 days at home before leaving for Germany.
Thank you for everything.
Can you say thank you, everyone?
Bye.
Proton beam therapy is very expensive, but for children who are having curative treatment, we anticipate that they've got a whole lifetime ahead of them. And if we can give them a better quality of life, that is seen as a very good investment.
Bye-bye.
Hi, John.
This is Katie Southern, who's just started as the general manager.
Hi, Katie.
Oh, yeah.
It's me, yeah, hi. Great.
At the Royal, Professor John Brennan and his team are meeting with Chief Executive Aidan Kehoe to discuss the vascular department's lengthy waiting times.
Where are we at now with the actual waiting times?
This is waiting times from assessment to treatment. And this is also referral to treatment by weeks.
Okay.
Our problem when we put 3 cases on the list is that we're being told, yes, you've got a bed for your first patient. You may have a bed for your second patient. We're very doubtful you have a bed for your third patient.
I mean, the clinical prioritisation stuff is really important to me because the whole flow issue, you say, where we get to is we can have somebody sitting in a bed waiting for discharge, and we'll have people in A&E seriously ill waiting for a bed, and we'll have people on your waiting lists. It is the responsibility of the clinicians, because only the clinicians can do this, to come up with a prioritisation process. Now, you have to make sure the beds are allocated on the basis of who needs that most. It was actually a vascular case that are not here that made me really push hard on this clinical prioritisation stuff, because I don't know if I told you, but it was one that was on the news, that a guy somewhere in Plymouth or something like that, because of bed pressures in their hospital, the guy who's on a waiting list, he'd been told that if he didn't have his toe amputated or something, he'd lose his whole leg. So basically, he chopped it off himself at home because he couldn't get in.
We haven't got any self-amputators.
You know, but it's that it highlights why the clinical prioritisation stuff is so critical.
Yeah. I would like us to be working in a much more comfortable setting, whereby patients were being seen and being treated within time frames that are generally agreed are reasonable. But it's going to take a while, I think, to solve the various complex issues that will allow us to do that.
Okay, Edward. Your second's on the list up to now, okay? So if you just...
Sorry?
Second's on the list up to now.
So
So we're
what?
just going to sit you out in the waiting room for now while we get the first ready, and then we'll bring you through shortly, okay?
Yeah, so roughly what time, any idea? Who knows?
86-year-old Edward has waited 4 months for his planned aneurysm operation, twice as long as the recommended limit.
Yeah,
They'll be round shortly anyway, so they'll let you know what time you're looking
I
at.
brought my own whiskey in, by the way.
We might have a sip of that as well.
His operation should go ahead today, as long as no emergency arrives.
The aorta is about 36 millimetres in diameter. Mine at the moment is 63.
It's taken me 4 months to be able to identify a slot whereby I haven't got a more urgent case to go into, but 4 months is clearly twice as long as the recommended 8 weeks. I feel that's a diminution of quality, and I feel like I'm letting patients down.
You're right.
I had an aneurysm repair 17 years ago, but that was an open repair. I have a scar that goes from the attic to the basement.
We could do another big operation, but it would be a bit more difficult than the first time. And you're obviously not quite as young as you were the first time. So nowadays what we tend to try and do is just try and tend to fix these things with a keyhole type approach. And so the intention is that you'll just have a couple of small cuts in the groins, hopefully.
Edward's keyhole surgery means a much faster recovery than open abdominal surgery.
If we've got 2 small incisions and percutaneous closure, the patient can go home after either 24 hours or 2 days. You save, 1 or 2 bed days.
If he'd had this as an open operation, he would go to our post-operative critical care unit upstairs. He'd be kept ventilated overnight, and the overall recovery is a much, much longer pathway in this sort of setting.
Look after him.
We will.
But the cost-effectiveness of keyhole repairs in elderly patients like Edward is currently under national review.
It's an undeniable fact that it is a more costly way of treating aneurysms than traditional open surgical repair.
We're talking £10,000 per case plus.
majority of our patients are well into their 80s, and it's a balance between the amount that the treatment actually costs and the length of time the person's got to gain from it.
In the new Royal, Chief Executive Aidan Kehoe has an even bigger challenge on his hands.
So how close is this to being finished now?
Well, you know, you can see it's pretty far on, isn't it? You know, a lot of the kit already in place and so on.
He needs to get a new finance deal and building contractor in place to finish the hospital.
At the time we signed the contract in 2013, no one would have predicted what happened to Carillion. It has been extremely frustrating. I mean, you get a sense of how complete it is. And that's why it's been really difficult, because we were coming round looking at a nearly complete building, then all of a sudden everything came to a halt. There's Anfield. There's the stadium, fantastic. That new stand, the really high bit you can see, was built by Carillion. They finished that scheme.
So is that the second most important building in Liverpool?
That is the second most important building in Liverpool, indeed.
The unfinished and unused hospital needs constant and expensive maintenance.
There are over 4,000 taps in the building. There are between 14 and 18 full-time operatives going around the building at any one time, turning on and off water taps, and it takes 6 days to complete that for the whole building.
2 minutes for cold, 1 minute for hot.
Every pipe has a natural amount of Legionella in it, but if you don't keep flushing those pipes through, it's ideal conditions for that to grow. So all those microbiological sort of organisms can grow, particularly Legionella. If left and a patient ingested that, it could make them quite sick.
Millions of pounds worth of brand new medical equipment has been left abandoned since the building work stopped.
So installed, wrapped, obviously from a dust perspective, trying to keep them clean just to make sure nothing gets into the machine, doors locked so that no one can get in. So the next stage is to meet with the suppliers and say, well, if it is going to be another 18 months to 2 years, what do we do about warranties? You'd have to worry about it being sat there for over 3 years. Is it going to work? Who takes the risk? I've listed out all the items that have been delivered and those that haven't been delivered, and the value of money that we've committed to that. I don't know if you want to go through it now.
The Trust paid Carillion for the equipment already installed in the new hospital, but when the company went bust, some of the suppliers hadn't been paid.
What we're talking about here is amounts that should have been paid by Carillion to these companies. So yes, we now own the equipment, but they're saying to us they either want it back or they want us to pay something for it.
But technically the equipment belongs to us.
But we need them to install it, finish it off, commission it.
But the people who are liable for that debt are Carillion.
Yes.
And we have paid the money for that to Carillion.
That would have been factored in, so within the cost to complete there is a number to pay those suppliers back if that's what we decide to do. But I think at the minute, with the work to complete, we're looking at over 200 million to finish the job as a whole. It's a big number.
Hello, sir. We met when you came into hospital. I'm Prof. Brennan. I'm one of the vascular surgeons here. You didn't just have a ruptured aneurysm, though. You've also had a bit of a stroke, which I think you had last week when you were at the Isle of Man. Did that affect your arm at all? You're moving your arms all right, are you?
Professor John Brennan is doing his ward rounds. Bruce, who had an emergency ruptured aneurysm, is recovering in critical care.
So what's happened here is he's come in and he's thrown at us a ruptured aneurysm and a stroke, and we've jumped on him, and he's stood up afterwards and said, what's next?
Yeah.
So you seem to be a bit indestructible. Is that right?
I mean, I think the fact that he was previously fit and well, has
that's
helped him.
Oh, well,
He's
absolutely, 100%.
Swimmer,
Yeah.
footballer.
People did it Isle of Man.
Yes.
I said, no, I don't want it.
You don't want an operation?
No. And they said, no, go for it.
What do you think now? Do you think it was worth it?
Only time I felt.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's fine. It's sore.
These groins, yeah, they will be sore.
Oh, yes, well, that's to be expected.
But you're mobile now, are you?
Oh, yeah.
Good.
Edward is making a swift recovery after keyhole surgery.
So you're ready to go home now?
Yes, I'm ready to go home. Perhaps not that I want to go home. I'm quite enjoying it.
What you need to do, always the best thing after an operation, is you need to go home, and I always say feel sorry for yourself at home. So it's much better for you to recuperate in your own time at home now.
If I get another 17 years, 86, 96, 103, so I'm happy with that.
The problem we have is that we're seeing increasingly elderly patients arriving with aneurysms who are quite keen to be considered for keyhole repair, and that's very expensive.
If keyhole aneurysm repair for the very elderly is deemed not cost-effective, vascular surgeons will be facing a stark choice.
If the guidelines are published, then one has two alternatives to treating aneurysm. We can either do a really big, ugly operation, which we know is going to be high risk, or we're going to say there's not much we can do about it, so pat you on the head and we'll leave you. The inevitable outcome would be an increase in the number of ruptured aneurysms that we see. And ruptured aneurysms are absolutely best avoided, no question.
You're all right then? Yeah. Normally gets freezing in here. You got them on down there? Yeah. Good.
Staff and patients have now been stuck in the old Royal Hospital for 18 months longer than planned. It's likely they will remain here for at least another year.
It has been a bit, demoralising for staff, having things going wrong all the time in the existing building. It creates a burden for people that shouldn't really be there.
The collapse of Carillion and the withdrawal of private investors has meant there's been no further construction on the new Royal for 10 months. Aidan's best option now is that the government will step in and rescue the scheme with public money.
Last night it all seemed to come together. About 11 o'clock at night, I think it was, eventually got a call that said the public funding is going to be available for this scheme. The government have agreed they will fund it. The costs have escalated to such an extent that I think it's unrealistic now for us to agree a PFI, private finance deal, which will rescue this scheme. I will write to government confirming what this board has decided and ask for government support to take this forward. Is everybody happy that we adopt that option?
Yeah.
Right.
Good, sir. Good.
Thank you, everybody.
And well done.
Thank you.
Well done to you.
It was in the last hour that the Trust has confirmed it is terminating this private finance deal, which had failed so spectacularly here. But I'm delighted to say we're joined by Aidan Keogh, the Trust Chief Executive. Have you had confirmation of government funds?
What we've agreed today is the Trust will terminate the existing PFI contract, and this will now become a publicly funded scheme, and we would be looking at moving into the new hospital somewhere in 2020. Since January, it's been really hard, wondering how we're going to get this hospital completed. I felt under massive pressure, I think, to get it done. So getting that call was just a fantastic moment.
That's all right. If I wake up, I wake up. If I don't, I don't. Funnily enough, to my amazing, I woke up. I thought, aye, can't be my turn then,
Following life-saving vascular surgery, Bruce is out of critical care and recovering well on the ward.
If you've got no quality of life, you might as well be brown bread. And some poor buggers haven't. But my quality of life isn't bad. Let's be honest about it. So I'm enjoying, you know, building me project. A double-decker bus, yeah, which is now a treble-decker bus.
And what are you using it for?
Well, various things.
Right, I'm going to office and to sort things out. 2018 was a bad year for vascular. But I do think that a sense of order is being brought, and I look forward to moving into the new hospital. I think it's going to be a big project. Well, the vessels are all clear on the CT. So then I can step away from the leadership side of things and feel that actually what we've got is we've got a system that's just generally a bit better all round. Now that's why I come to work. One thing you want to do when you retire is leave behind a really successful, thriving team and a really good service for patients coming into it.
Which way is it now, Charlie? So, after your treatment, Charlie, we're going to have a milkshake, yeah? And then should we go to the park? And then we'll have some lunch. Yeah. What do you want for lunch? Bolognese? We'll have to see if Mummy's got some out.
Charlie is undergoing daily proton beam therapy in Germany.
Today will be treatment 17, so we're past halfway now. It has gone so fast, it really has. It's something you never really want to have to give to any child, but if you do, and you want to be making sure you're causing as little damage to that little brain as possible. Are we here?
Yeah.
Do we just go down?
You can go downstairs, please.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
The West German Proton Beam Center is one of 6 in Germany.
Where's it gone? Oh! Are you okay? Charlie's been improving daily. His strength's coming back, his neurological skills, like his hand-eye coordination's getting better. Where he was to where he is now, it's like a totally different boy.
Hi, how are you?
How are you, Charlie?
How are you?
Oh, good.
Good. Oh, that's great.
It's just empowering, you're just proud. He's handling it so well now, and the team in Essen are brilliant.
And everything you need is here.
He's just a good patient. So that just makes it a lot easier.
You all ready?
Night, night. Okay, I've got you.
And close.
Kiss.
And his eyes a little tight.
A custom-molded thermoplastic mask ensures the proton beam only hits the exact part of Charlie's brain that was affected by the tumour. Professor Beate Timmerman heads up the centre and is overseeing Charlie's treatment.
I think this year we will have about 60 patients from the UK, which is quite a bit when we're considering that the total volume of children being treated here is about 250. A UK cohort is the largest foreign cohort we are having. Charlie is a very good example of why proton beams are important. So he is having a treatment for a brain tumor in the upper area of the head. It's quite close to the brain stems. So therefore it's very important that we can provide a treatment which still treats the tumor hard enough, but will still spare the surrounding normal tissue.
Proton beams can be targeted more accurately at the tumour bed than X-rays used to destroy cancer cells in conventional radiotherapy. This will give Charlie the best chance of recovery with the least damage to his developing body.
You're just proud of how brave he's been, how strong he is, just a sense of relief as well that we might be, you know, moving forward and getting over this.
See you tomorrow then. Thank you.
I'm just so proud of him and his brothers, Nicky.
Harry, are you going? We've settled into life in Germany.
Well, that's a bit fancy.
It's just nice to all be together as a family for the first time in ages. It's like just having a little bit of normality.
He'll make his own future, and I know he'll have a bright one because of his sheer determination. So I just want him to have a happy life.
When he returns to the UK, Charlie will have physiotherapy to help him regain his movement and speech.
Just hope that he's just happy. You know, he won't ever know any different.
There have been times which have been very, very challenging, and you start to wonder, are you going to achieve the things that you need to achieve? But it's a really positive feeling at the moment.
We're kind of under control at the moment. Whilst they're not being published, then we'll carry on as we are. Every vascular service in the country has become geared towards more and more keyhole type surgery.
And turning that around will be a major undertaking.
Whoa, look at those strong legs. That's it. That's it. Well done. Whoa!
Next time, staff struggle to discharge patients with the most complex conditions.
I need to go, I need to get out.
She could stop breathing to an extent that would kill her.
So I'm not going on? No. Fucking shit.
What people don't want is simply survival. What people want is quality of life.
But faced with limited resources...
I'm really sorry, but we haven't managed to get you a bed today.
Tough decisions must be made about patient care.
And the funding sorted?
No. It's desperate now.
The important thing is we get Thomas in one of these places now. You need to think about that, seriously.
How healthy are you? Find out with the Open University's interactive pages how small changes can make a difference. Go to bbc.co.uk/hospital and follow the links to the Open University.